right. Welcome to the Pipeline and People podcast, powered by Versorix, the show where boutique firm leaders trade less admin for more advisory. Each week, we share actionable tactics to keep your client pipeline full and your team performing at its best. I'm your host, Jaden Parisi. Let's dive in. Today's guest is Kelly Smith, founder and CEO of Projected Growth Consulting, one of the most influential firms in aesthetic medical space. Kelly, welcome. Could you kick us off with a quick look at your background and how PGC came to life?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. Actually, I started the company back in 2009 as a virtual company before virtual companies were a thing, because we had to help our clients ahead of time before we would show up on site to do sales events and things like that. So my background was I graduated business school in University of Washington and started working for companies writing small business plan and implementing small businesses and things like that. And I thought, well, why am I doing this when I could be doing my own thing? So I opened up my own med spa, day spa in Eastern Washington, got it over to over $1 million in the first year. We were seeing about 15,000 clients annually. And then I started my family. And after I had my second child, I thought, gosh, I've got 20 employees and 2 little ones. And so I went ahead and sold that to one of my main competitors. It's still up and running. And I just wanted to kind of make a pivot for a while the kids were young. And that sort of naturally opened up to consulting. People started seeking me out. And before I knew it, my first client had gone from 800,000 to 4 million in 4 locations. And I was speaking nationally about how to run aesthetic medical spas, plastic surgery practices with KPIs, and to understand most doctors are the owners and there's no business part of med school. And so just basic operating procedures and KPIs and industry standards and systemizing things can go a long way for those offices. So really what I've just found is we were in 50 offices a month across the country. I've written 5 books. I lecture all over the place. So systems, scaling, SOPs are my best friend. Otherwise, there's no way. They say you can do the first million on your own. After that, you have to make people want to help you make money. You got to grow people, right? And the only way to grow people is with standard operating procedures and processes. And that's why I love the support that AI can bring into the picture. So it's not such a heavy lift. And so I see it we're using quite a few of those tools and have for a long time in our business, but I'm seeing across our industry more and more adaption of some of the AI tools to really save time and money.
Okay, that's amazing. Scaling a business to $1 million in 1 year is not a small accomplishment.
I've done that a half dozen, maybe a dozen times. A lot of my clients I'll take from startup to 1 or 2 million in a year now. Yeah.
Still incredibly impressive. What tools do you use? You mentioned AI tools.
Well, for years we've used things like different CRMs and Zapier and DocuSign and anything to automate, anything that's done repetitively. I will put into place some sort of a system. So even if we would use Solve 360 for our programs, I'd go through and create a checklist of every single thing that needed to be done so people could just mark it off, Then we created all these teachable courses in order to train externally, but really internally. So that was sort of a scaling solution then. Now there's a lot of AI tools, even with ChatGPT and auto email sorting and assisting, as well as upgrading the courses, managing the courses, creating social content or the marketing, since I do quite a bit of YouTube and we need to do shorts and TikToks and emails and blogs and so forth. So I really like the tool Descript. That's been a great one for us. HeyGen's been really helpful with their teleprompter. General chat GPT, it just can be really helpful in a lot of different ways. So what I'm finding is a lot of the CRMs in our industry are incorporating AI into their go high level combination of their point of sale so that their lead follow-up and their sales and their social content they're really leaning into utilizing those just like we are.
Amazing. Yeah, it's nice to see how forward you are with AI. A lot of the people I've talked to, they have no idea. They're like, "Oh, I'm super traditional. What's Chat GPT?" But yeah, so you've helped over 5,000 practices. What's the core engine behind that impact?
Clarifying the KPIs, setting really clear monthly, quarterly, annual goals, but measuring progress weekly and giving them a structure and letting them know what the benchmarks are. They don't realize that they're available. A lot of doctors will come from the traditional hospital, a lot of OB-GYNs, all kinds of different practitioners will come into the field and hang a shingle and open a location. And then they're really shocked that it doesn't work like a hospital where everything is just so terribly organized, right? And people aren't allowed to make a decision. It's all about standard operating procedures. And they really don't have an interest in creating or doing any of that. They just want things to work. Especially, I specialize with surgeons. They like to show up and cut people and they like them to be asleep. So when you talk about building a team culture so that you don't have high turnover, because that's such a profit killer, and creating standard operating procedures so you can hold people accountable, but set them up for success. A typical doctor response will be, they should just be happy to have a job. So this industry is an interesting one because they pay me for my services, but I'm sort of upwardly managing them and their staff to help them want to do things a better way in an area that's really unfamiliar to them, that they don't necessarily like. They don't like sales. They don't like marketing. They're way above that. They're physicians. They shouldn't have to do any of that or understand any of that. But, if you build the greatest place and no one knows it's there, you're not going to have
exactly.
So, marketing, operations, and finance, it takes all three of those parts to be successful. So I usually have them fill out a self-intake form so that they know their business the best. They can tell me what's working and not working. Then we can prioritize and work from there. And then my goal is always to systemize. And if there's an AI tool that can help us do that, or if we can optimize the software that they have, but they're not yet doing that, it's just clarifying it for them so they feel confident that they're doing something. They want to know they're doing it the right way.
For sure. So, how do you typically engage with a new client, and what are some of the early signs that you look for or red flags in their numbers, operations? How do you target your approach there?
Well, I work with people that want to do startups, or they want to buy or sell a business, or they want to turn around or expand. So if I'm reviewing a deal for due diligence, there's certain key numbers I look at that I can tell right away whether it makes, whether they're accurate or not. There's just certain ratios that a bookkeeper or an accountant or a CPA isn't going to know, if they don't have a lot of industry experience. So doing a practice diagnostics that's divided between operation, finance, and marketing is usually where I'm having them fill that out so they can tell me, because they know their business best, what they need help with. But really what I'm trying to let them see is it takes kind of all these things to be successful. And it's pretty impossible for one person to do all those things. So we have to clarify the plan and build the team and motivate the team, because you get back to company mission, values, getting everyone wanting to pull together and work together, regardless if you implement AI tools or not, right?
Yeah.
But no one likes that answer. So you kind of have to give them all the stuff that needs to be done. And then they finally realize, I might not be able to do all that by myself, right? And then I pair them with proven people in the industry that I've worked with that I know are utilizing these tools that can help them implement these efficiencies, and then share with them along the way any of them that we can directly recommend as to why, especially video content. They don't like doing video content for social platforms or for their website. And it's so incredibly helpful, because if a patient can see the doctor talking and do an on-demand consultation when it's the time for them, they'll convert a lot more patients, but they're really uncomfortable on video. So now that we can show them things like Descript and HeyGen and some of these options where we can say, okay, well, let's get some avatar stuff done. Let's do some shorts, that can look good so that you can be interviewing clients while you're asleep at 11 o'clock while they're Googling how do I get rid of thinning hair, or how do I get rid of my love handles, or whatever they're looking at, right? We have to be able to respond when they're looking. And so
Yes.
whatever I can do to help them lean into technology it's really important. And so they don't usually resist it too much for a little while, but it's always assess what's working first,
Yeah, of
prioritize
course.
what needs to be fixed second, and then going at it strategically one at a time. And if there's a software or AI or vendor solution to plug in, then of course that's where I'm going to try to guide them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I spoke with someone the other day who has a very similar model to you. I mean, they don't work with the same niche, but like I'm almost getting deja vu from everything you're saying. It's yeah,
Well,
the SOP.
are small businesses. It kind of
Yeah,
doesn't matter exactly what services you're rendering, the same principles apply.
of course. Yeah, so I kind of want to get into some trends and see what your take is. So, what do you think has changed in the last 2 or 3 years that makes cash flow for these small businesses harder to stabilize?
The consistency of marketing and the consistency of your standard operating procedures or KPIs to know if your average sales is going up or down, if your conversion ratios are going up or down. Measuring performance improves performance. And if they take their eye off the ball and they're not interested in that, typically things start to fall. And so that's usually a big problem. And in these offices, it's also a challenge that they like everyone to wear multiple hats so that if anyone's sick, someone can cover for someone else. Because a lot of times it's a team of 3 to 7 people, sometimes 10 or 15. But the average med spa is going to be 1 million, 2 million. A lot of them are, I have a lot of the, 5 to 20 million, but that's like the top 20%. The average one is 500,000 to 2 or 3 million. And so, they've got 3 to 10 staff members. And the kiss of death is when they expect all the staff members to be able to plug into any role. And so that org chart and explaining how that's supposed to work that one's a hard one for them to accept. They really feel like they should be able to have an esthetician that could also cover the front desk, who could also be a scrub tech, who could also do, all the social media because they're young, you know,
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
yeah,
So just teaching them. Not everyone has to be full time. Not everything needs to be done by a person. A lot of them can be done by these systems, but having someone, using these systems. One of the newest things that has made a lot of improvement is the virtual chat voice answering and
Mhm.
answer questions for the offices so that they can respond to the lead immediately and call them back and answer basic questions. And I've seen so much improvement in that voice chatbot that you'd be hard pressed to know if you're talking to a person or not. And quite frankly, a lot of times they're better than the person you would have gotten anyhow.
Yeah, no, for sure. I actually spoke to the founder of, they claim to be the best voice chatbot. They were explaining everything like you sign up, it's 3, 4, 5 clicks, and you're basically set up. It handles everything for you. It's called Nedzo AI. It sounded really cool, and I've actually tried it out, and it was quite impressive.
I'm going to have to check
It's
that out.
yeah.
Nedzo AI. What have you seen as far as course creation AI that's really helpful? Have you seen any software that you really like with?
Yeah, I mean, I think with anything, there's not one solution, right, that's gonna just do everything for you. Right now, where we're at with AI, it's knowing how to leverage the tools and which tools to use, and that's something that a lot of people struggle with. But for something like course creation, obviously content-wise, something like ChatGPT o3, like the pro version of ChatGPT, or Gemini for the actual content or even structure. And then, if you want to make videos or presentations to kind of voiceover, things like Gamma is really good for presentations. You could do text to speech. Like it's learning how to combine softwares and use them effectively. There's not going to be a done for you solution that is productized like that, where you can just go buy it and it's going to be done for you. So that's kind of that's what we do at Versorix, is we know what to use, when to use it, and how to use it.
I partner with one of my digital marketing partners, and I've paid for him to help me implement and customize some of the solutions so that they can talk to each other. I love Jasper AI for really good hooks and ways to create hooks for videos or social posts. HeyGen's great for a video prompter, and CapCut for dicing things up and saving time for video content. We use a lot of that. So yeah, I think there's a new one that I just heard specifically specializing in standard operating procedures, and I'm going to give that one a shot. I was trying to look back through my things to see the name of it, because for a lot of small businesses, I feel like that's a serious pain point. They just don't have time to have clear SOPs by position. And then if people aren't doing what they want them to do, they don't take the responsibility of the lack of training or definition, and they'll just change the person. And that's really expensive for a small business to be going through personnel. It's not good.
Yeah, for sure. Another good one is for anything kind of recorded like this, Riverside FM.
Okay.
Yeah, there is one problem with it is, ideally you could replace Zoom and record everything directly in Riverside, but right now it only lets you book 3 meetings out at a time, which who only has 3 meetings, but you can upload it, you can edit it, it'll do the transcript for you. It's great. It's what I've been using.
If a client does a lot of Zoom coaching, integrating your Otter AI with that, so you have your automatic notes. I send a video and a proofed Otter AI checklist after every meeting, and that does save a lot of time, and I can just file those copies in the client's file on my drive. That's helped automate quite a bit of I feel like that is very, very helpful. I mean, I've been doing that for a long time. I'm sure a lot of people already know that.
We use Fathom on our end just because it's free, but it's still pretty good.
Is it? And you can just integrate it with your Zoom?
Just automatically join. Okay, we got a little bit off track there, but in a good way. Let me see if I can bring it back here. So the topic of today is, three trends threatening cash flow. So I wanted to get your take on that. What are 3 major trends that you've seen, threatening profitability?
Well, I think employees are always going to be one of your biggest key expenses. So when you can automate tasks like meeting follow-up, like I just talked about with recordings and Otter AI, and have an assistant quickly review that and send that out. When you can lean into a good point of sale or CRM with a go high level type of base, so that your confirmations and your follow-ups, those automations can be done, then you can have less staff members. And so keeping your payroll, under 25% in our industry, if you can do that, you're doing really well. It's a very plastic surgery, medical spas, they're very high touch, high customer service demands. And so labor seems to be a really big problem. A lot of people are 40 and 50% labor because they don't know how to provide the luxury experience and the customer care and follow-up without having more people. And what I try to do is teach them, what can be automated versus the patient provider side of things, and how to make that as efficient as possible. So driving costs down, payroll is one of your most expensive. So wherever you can plug something in to automate or to save time for a position is going to exponentially affect your bottom line. So that's key. And that gets into those SOPs, making sure it's worth investing with someone who's really understanding the AI solutions, for them to, like what you guys do, assess the business, look for the opportunities, and let a professional set it up so it's successful instead of trying to learn how to recreate the wheel. I don't think there's any sense in that. I mean, I have doctors that do their own website because they can. I said, you're so overpaid and under talented to do this. Like, it's really not the right thing to do. So I don't think that, unless I think it's worth hiring a consulting business who can really tell you what the right solutions are for your niche and implement those and connect those. Because if you can lower your labor, we've all talked about it, IA solutions, they don't get sick, they don't get pregnant, they don't move, they don't, that's nice. So the less people you're trying to coordinate, the easier your job is too.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we got a few minutes left here, so we're going to do a quick rapid fire. I got a few questions, just whatever's on the top of your head, quick answers. Sound good?
Sure.
All right. What is the biggest myth about scaling a business?
Everybody assumes they can do it faster and easier than what it really takes. And oftentimes they want to create multiple locations before they even get one figured out. And that's a very quick pathway to bankruptcy.
Yeah, I can imagine. One high impact fix firms can take this week to strengthen cash flow.
Look at the way they are responding to new client inquiries and leads and make sure that they have an automation to immediately respond and reach out, because the quicker you respond, the higher your conversion ratios. And so that's really important if you're spending money to try to grow your business and you're getting leads. If you're not responding to them immediately, they're just calling someone else. So automating that, training for that is critical. And then weekly measuring performance against monthly goals. It's surprising how many companies don't do that.
Yeah. Okay. And finally, what's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
I think begin with the end in mind, Stephen Covey, because you really shouldn't open a business without considering what your exit and your sales plan is. And I worked with a lot of people late in their career that by the time they're ready to get out, they're really burned out and they really want out. And they're not thinking, a year to 3 to 5 years ahead. In a perfect scenario, if you're thinking 3 to 5 years ahead, you're going to get the highest price, and you're going to understand things like key man risk and how to be diversified. So planning ahead, keeping the end in mind that at some point you're going to want to sell this business. So understand how businesses are valued. And as you create your business, keep that in mind.
Were you going through that when you wanted to sell your business? Burnt out. I want to get out. I want to do something else.
I think I had it for 5 years and I really wanted to be able to enjoy the time with little kids. And there was just so many hours with 20 employees. And if it wasn't one thing, it was something else going on in there. And so having a brick and mortar location, I was like, I'll never own another business again. It's just so high maintenance. And it's like raising 20 kids plus the 2. And so doing the consulting, that model and the level of people that I hire and having them be virtual and getting paid upon completion is a way to create mutual accountability. So I knew there was a smarter way of doing business and a way to not trade hours for dollars. And so that's when I started doing consulting shortly thereafter.
Okay, awesome. Well, really appreciate the conversation. Thank you so much for joining. It's packed with insight. For listeners who want to connect or learn more about PGC, or maybe even, take a look at your course, where should they go?
projectedgrowthconsulting.com. And everything's connected there to go to YouTube or Instagram or to look at the programs. Lots of videos, lots of testimonials on there. There's a lot of free education on YouTube and some affordable courses just to put your toe in the water if that's what they're looking for. Or Amazon, I've got 5 books on there.
Wow. Well, I have this conversation spark something for you. Pass it on to a founder or operations. Tag Kelly. And until next time, I'm Jaden. This is the Pipeline of People podcast.
Thanks, Jaden.